I started to think like, okay, so I have the best wrestler in the world in my room. Well, I'm going to stay every day and practice until he leaves. And every day I would stay until he left.
Yeah.
And after a while, he kind of started to notice it. Why are you? I said, because if I stay after you leave, I'm going to get better.
Right. Live in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We are live. What's up, everyone? Against the Grain, episode 41. I didn't think we'd make it this far, guys. I say this every time, but every episode is a blessing from God. Glad to still be with you guys. Thank you guys for supporting. We have a very special guest today. Before that, though, I just want to mention Brandon won't be with us, so it's just going to be me and my guest. Luckily, me and this guy go way back. I consider him a close friend. You know, close friends aren't ones that you have to hang out with every day, but they're people that have been in your life from the beginning. And in between those gaps, when you see each other, it feels like it was the day before yesterday. So I'm proud to introduce our next guest, two-time NCAA wrestling pioneer from New Mexico, I would say. Also a UFC grappling coach in the past, still on the mission. APD officer as well. Salute to the officers in Albuquerque and across the world. Eric Montoya! Let's go, baby. What is up? How you doing, bro?
Good, man. How are you?
Good to see you, man. I feel like we just shot a whole podcast before this podcast, man.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking the same thing.
Sign up to the Patreon. No, I'm just kidding. Nah, man. Thank you for coming, man. We were just laughing before this because I was able to dig up some old footage of me and you wrestling back in like 5th grade.
Yeah, man.
It's crazy to think.
Down in Roswell, baby.
Yep, down in Roswell.
Good old Roswell. That's like
where wars happen.
The only time, or maybe one of 2 times, that my grandma ever went to go watch me wrestle.
No way.
And we always talk about the match where me and you had wrestled out there.
Oh my
gosh.
Getting it. You even got to see it, man. A little bit of it.
Was that the one? I feel like we wrestled a few times.
We did wrestle a lot, but I think that was just one of the few times that like whenever we were in junior wrestling, they made us like a highlight montage.
Yeah.
And our match made it to the highlight montage, of course, because we were freaking just going at it.
That's probably what we were. We were both 10 at the time.
Yeah, we were both 10 years old. And we'll add this in right now if we can. Right here. Just kidding. But as you like in the clip you guys probably just watched, I mean, you guys can see me and Eric, like we're both like the same size, same body type.
Yep.
Eric was a little bit more, you could tell he looks more like ready for the match. I'm like nervous as hell. But we just showed up on.
Yeah, that's so are you 28?
Yep, 28. Yep.
When do you turn 29?
Close. Like within the next month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See, yeah, that was one of the reasons why I got held back. And I always thought about it back in the day. And it's funny because before this we were talking about how that one day we worked out together at Albuquerque High.
Yeah.
And you kind of kicked my butt. And I always had thought that we were going to cross paths in high school.
Right.
And I remember that was kind of an awakening moment because I'm like, I'm training all the time now. And I remember I used to get the better of you in junior wrestling.
Right.
Hopefully you agree with that.
Yeah.
But that day you
scrapped.
That day you whooped my butt. And I remember that was
like whenever Max and everyone, we would all go to practice at Albuquerque High.
They were training for the Disney duels. And I was supposed to go on that trip. As a matter of fact, I was supposed to go to Albuquerque High.
Right.
Because the head coach at the time was Manny Garcia.
Right.
Well, then he got fired. And so I ended up going to Volcano Vista, and the rest is kind of history. But that was an eye-opener for me because you and Justin Martinez put a whooping on me that day.
Shout out Justin Martinez, Manzano, little scrapper.
I didn't forget about the time you beat me in the wrestle-off for Disney Duels a couple years later.
Yeah, hey, we're coming after you, Justin, so you better watch out.
Find you.
Us two together.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's crazy those moments, you never forget. I mean, like, that's over 15 years ago. You know, over 15 years ago.
Yeah, it was.
And I remember seeing you, because I recognize your face. Like, we'd go through war in junior wrestling, and then you see each other, 5 years later, and you're like, what's up, dude? You know what I mean?
I know. Yeah.
And then, like you said, it's crazy that we never met up in high school because we were almost always the same weight.
Yeah, you're always one weight bigger than me.
Right, but our senior year we were both 119, I think.
Were you in my bracket?
Yeah, so this
No, but you were 4'8" and I was 5'8".
Yeah, but for what's the big tournament? Joe Vivian. So for Joe Vivian, I lost in the semis.
Your senior year.
Yeah.
My junior year.
Exactly.
Who'd you lose to?
I lost to someone from Cruces.
Udero.
Yeah. He got me in some weird... It was the worst.
Okay, yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So I was going for third, and you were going for first. And just to show, like, an example of, like, our relationship is, like... I remember, like, right before my match, I had the guy from, like, Robertson, who's the state champ, for third or whatever. Yeah. And you're like, I wrestled this guy before. You're like, you giving me advice, and you're like, no, this guy likes to do this, that. And I had never wrestled him, and we're just, like, we're in the same bracket, you know what I mean? And you're over here, like, helping me out. And I ended up beating that kid, you know?
Charlie Armijo?
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because I have people all the time that come up to me, and it's always in the wrestling world, and they're like, there was this moment. Usually it's kind of like, it's usually people coming up to me and saying, like, hey, you told me, hey, don't be a, you know what, or this and that. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, God, I said that? So it's kind of good to hear that I was actually being, like, I'm always trying to be helpful. Sometimes I'm a little more abrasive than other times. But
you were blunt, man. You were blunt. You told me just straight up how it is. You're like, this is what he likes to do. If you can't defend that, I don't know what to say, but this is like his bread and butter.
That's funny. And that was at Cibola,
like,
right?
Right? Yep, Cibola, yeah. Yeah, so I ended up winning that, and I remember like just thinking like, Eric's a good homie, you know. Because it really does help to study your opponents. And if you don't know nothing about them, how can you possibly prepare? You know, like even like in MMA, all this, like if you don't study your opponent, you're going to get destroyed. So like it's like studying before a test, you know. If you don't study, you're going to lose.
Well, the thing is now, so when I got into high school and I started taking wrestling really serious, my dad had bought a camera. And so he filmed every match I had, and I had various laptops throughout like those 4 years of high school, but I would always download them onto my laptop.
Yeah.
And I'd watch them, and I'd watch every match, and I think they're still my mom's somewhere. I was just thinking about this yesterday. I need to go and find a way to extract all that data and put it like onto like my MacBook. But the game's changed because
it's all good, bro.
Everything is on video now.
Yeah.
Especially with Flow Wrestling and all that stuff. You got to think back in the day, like especially like in collegiate terms.
You would have to go the extra mile with a video camera and stuff.
You'd have to have somebody go and actually film your opponent. Otherwise, you're kind of just going out there and throwing caution to the wind.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's a
word
different
of mouth.
Yeah.
I was trusting that what you were telling me you knew, you know.
And that's probably how it was for everybody back then.
It was, yeah.
You know, and that was still probably the beginning stages of Flow Wrestling. And obviously Flow Wrestling wasn't coming to Albuquerque. So for us, we were still like in the caveman days. You know,
were.
Like, hey, what do you know about this kid? What do you know about that? And everybody's kind of trying to fish for information on everybody. But I completely had forgot that we were even in the same bracket, man. I remember you used to wrestle Lolo.
Yeah, I wrestled Lolo at least a couple times in high school, right?
He was such an amazing talent.
He was very... that kid just had something special, and he had this confidence that a lot of kids just didn't have, you know? Like, he would just...
He was a genetic freak.
Yeah, but I've never seen someone so chill and, like, effortlessly, like, not worried before a match. Because I already have anxiety.
Sure.
And I would just always get anxiety, you know? And then once the whistle blew, it's like it goes away. But, like, him, like, I remember the first time I wrestled him, it was, like, in, like, 4th grade, like, at Greater Southwest or something. And his dad, I remember him talking to his dad, and he's like, Dad, should I just do all pins today, or do you want all techs? Like, I remember him asking his dad that.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I just remember looking at him like, I'd never heard anyone, like, ask that so seriously.
I think Lolo, and I say this, I'm in a sense, it's almost like I'm so grateful for him.
Yeah.
Because I was very lucky. A lot of people don't know. I'm going to go into a couple quick stories because I know we got to get to some.
His full name is Lawrence Armijo.
Otero,
sorry. I know
he's Charlie Armijo. You think that?
Yeah, exactly.
So
sorry,
Lolo,
Lawrence, love you, bro.
Lolo, he was the man coming up.
Yeah.
And I think with him, he had a lot of pressure from his uncle and his dad. And I think that he wrestled just a lot of matches and a lot of competitions, and there was a lot of pressure on him from an early age.
Yeah.
And I think by the time he got to college, he just was just kind of ready to move on with his life, you know. But it doesn't take away from the fact of how special he was.
Right.
And how how important he was to me. And what a lot of people don't know is Lenny Lovato, the old
shout out Lenny,
the old dog
from West Mesa. Me and him fight sometimes for junior wrestling matches.
He recruited Lolo, and I can say this now because he's done coaching and all that stuff as far as high school. He's doing UFC stuff. He recruited Lolo just like he recruited Deshaun. And I don't know if you remember this. There was another kid that just so happened to come from California, Hiroshima Mathis.
Yeah, I wrestled that guy. I have a story to tell about that guy.
Well, so Lolo started his freshman year at West Mesa. He was playing football. He broke his shoulder, and him and Hiroshi, we called him Hiroshi, were slated to be at the same weight.
Right.
And I don't want to take all the credit for this, but I kept telling Lolo, I was like, dude, just come over to Volcano.
Yeah.
You got me here. We're gonna train hard. We had a new coach coming with Jimmy Melick, who I had told you about before the podcast.
I remember him.
I don't know if it was me or just they already kind of had their mindset. Within like 3 weeks, he was at Volcano Vista. He didn't have to sit out any matches.
Yeah.
But the part that I want to tell you, because you're from Belen.
Right.
Do you remember what was the kid's name from Valencia?
Stevie Garcia. Yeah.
So it was Lolo's first.
Hey, shout out to Stevie. Still one of my homies.
Stevie,
one of the toughest guys.
So Lolo was a freshman. Stevie was a senior.
Right.
Okay. And
135.
Whatever happened to certifications, I like to tell the story because it kind of gives insight on how really good Lolo was. So he was a freshman, and his weight certifications went some sort of way where he had to go 130 for that week.
Right.
Before he could go. Oh no, it was 125.
Yep.
He had to go 125 before he could go down to 119.
Yep. Which
he ended up wrestling in the finals against Carlos Montoya, right? Yep. Well, Stevie was at 125, and he was a returning runner-up.
Yep.
He was a senior.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, he ended up taking second at the Vivian that year.
Yeah.
In a really good bracket.
Right.
And so long story short, everybody been talking about how Stevie was gonna wreck this guy, and Stevie was a tough wrestler.
Yeah.
Shout out Stevie.
Yeah. Stevie.
And Lolo came in, and I don't have the stat book.
Did they not meet each other till the state tournament?
Lolo only wrestled him one time. He went up to 125. Okay. He wrestled him, and it was it was a lot of points to a very
really.
And Lolo wasn't even a 125 pounder.
That's awesome.
And that's not taking anything away from Stevie, because Stevie was a good wrestler, but Lolo was just.
You saw these little spurts in like his career that were phenomenal. That you probably
He was amazing, dude.
It's like you almost got to enjoy the come up more than anything. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because like that really was like, even though he's been wrestling for years, since he's been in junior wrestling, all this, that was like his come up in the high school career. That was one of his defining moments where it's like, I'm gonna prove myself. Like,
well, it just put everybody on record like, hey,
yeah,
here's the new kid in town. And, and in high school, he by far was the talk of the town.
And that's how I felt with whenever. So like, just for example, remember how I said I knew that name Hiroshima or Hiroshima, whatever.
Hiroshi, yeah. We used to call him Hiroshi. It might not be Hiroshima. I don't know.
That's the name of a bomb.
I'm so sorry.
Bomb,
yes, sorry.
No, so
Hiroshi, wherever
let
you
me
are,
just
bro.
put it like into this way, because his match was one of my best matches my senior year
against Hiroshi.
Yeah, so it was.
You and him were the same.
Yep. Yeah, it might not have been my senior year.
It might have been your junior year, dude.
Might have been my junior year.
Because that was when Lolo was a freshman, which made me a sophomore.
No, it was my junior year. So it was West Mesa Belen duel at West Mesa.
Yep.
And it was senior night, and Hiroshi was a senior. And I just remember my coach is like, hey, this is like, for example, like this is how much faith everyone had in me. My coach was like, dude, don't worry, like, you know, he's like a two-timer from California, whatever.
Yeah, whatever he was.
He's like, dude, just give it your all. Like, we're proud of you no matter what. And I was like, you kidding me? Like, it kind of pissed me off that, like, my own coach and everyone was talking to me like that. And we ended up going into overtime, and I threw him.
Did you beat him?
Yeah, I got him in an underhook, and I hip tossed him.
Oh, wow.
And in a home duel in West Mesa. You know what I mean? So it was one of those moments that like gave me confidence, where it was like, if I just make up my mind and say I'm going to do something, I can do it, you know? And it kind of like got the gears going my senior year, you know?
I'm glad you had a good moment over there, because I had a terrible moment over there.
With
my junior year.
With West Mesa?
My junior year. So my junior year, typically everybody kind of ran for me, you know what I mean? Well, Deshaun, I think Lenny and him kind of got together, and it was like, hey, we're going to go up and we're going to wrestle Eric. But really, he wasn't going up because the guy always weighed more than me. He was cutting down. You know what I mean?
Deshaun was?
Yeah, he was down at 112. That was when I was at 119.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the same year you're talking about at the Joe
Yep.
Gideon. I guess we're in the same bracket.
Yeah.
Deshaun comes up to wrestle me, and it was a close match.
Right.
It was a very, very highly anticipated match. I kind of knew ahead of time that he was going to come up.
Yeah.
And I think I just let the moment get to me.
Yeah.
And he got me by a point or so. It was a really close match, and they were going crazy. And but again, that's the thing about wrestling. Like, for that moment for you, it was a great moment.
Right.
For you moving forward. For me, that was a great moment for me going forward.
Right.
Because I knew there was still work to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to take his head off for the longest time. I couldn't get a hold of him.
Little did they know they fed the beast.
I got to wrestle him again that same year in Arizona, and I kind of got some paybacks on him. But it of course, it still to this day bothers me, because he can always say that he got a win over me in high school.
Yeah.
And so, but
hey,
that's wrestling.
There's defining winning moments and defining losing moments.
You gotta learn from both.
You gotta be there for both, and you gotta take it in.
Yeah.
But I was gonna ask you, because everyone here from New Mexico knows you, but what was your defining moment that brought you to Campbell?
Oh, Campbell?
Yeah. I just
didn't have any.
Did you have good grades in school?
I had a 3.0.
Because I saw that you had honor all through college, or something like that.
In college, I was a great student, and I'll get to that story in a sec.
Yeah.
And it has to deal with Campbell.
Campbell.
Campbell. So I was ranked pretty high in the country my senior year.
Yeah.
I went out to Super 32 in October, and that was before the regular season started for high school.
Is that when Izzy took you?
No, I never traveled with Izzy.
You never did?
No. Izzy came in after the fact. That was when Real Woods was a young boy. I went out there with little Mikey Lovato.
Okay.
And I did really well. I made it to the semis. It was a pretty controversial match against the number one kid in the country. And I ended up taking 5th place. And that was a really, really, really tough... To me, in my opinion, that tournament is better than Fargo because it's folk style and the brackets are so huge. You just can't beat it. Well, long story short, even with that and that good performance and me being able to get into the national rankings in every platform, I think there was guys before me that were super highly sought after that didn't kind of get to where they were supposed to.
You just didn't follow through.
And so I think for whatever reason, it kind of made people a little bit hesitant to roll the dice on somebody from New Mexico.
Right.
Because of the lack of competition.
Right.
Lack of exposure. You don't really know what you're getting there. You
Right.
could have a 4-time state champ from here. It doesn't mean that they're made out for the Division I elite level of wrestling.
You have to do a little something extra.
Exactly. And so Campbell was one of the few Division I schools that recruited me that was willing to give me a good offer. And so I took it, and super thankful for the opportunity from Joe Boardwine. He was the head coach at the time. Still talk to him to this day. And
shout out Joe.
Was able to start right away as a true freshman, and I got 50 matches that year, which I had the most matches in the whole entire country going to the national tournament. I was 33 and 17.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and that's unheard of. That's like a running.
How did you get that many? Were you just going to every possible thing you could?
Every tournament, I would lose first round and come back in place.
So you had to fight backdoor and just wrestle 5 matches.
The first tournament of the year, I took first, but for whatever reason, it was this ginormous bracket, and I got a ton of matches. I wrestled at the Nittany Lion Open, which is the open that the Penn State used to run.
That's where most of them go after they graduate, right?
I lost my second match, had to work my way all the way back. Southern Scuffle came, lost my first match, came all the way back. I took 7th, and then we went to Reno, lost my first match, came all the way back. I didn't place that tournament, but I got a crap ton of matches on the backside. I never sat out and throughout the year for any duels, for any reasons, even when there was a really bad weekend, which I don't ever want to get into. And I just was able to get a shitload of matches. And
how many did you say you got in?
So I was
leading up to.
I think I was 33 and 17.
Dang.
Either that or I was 33 and 15, and I went 2 and barbecue the national tournament. But
no injuries.
No, but I was just very ran down. But I was.
What were you, 125?
125. Okay. I was cutting down, and I was just by the end of the year, I was like a running back that took, I don't know how many carries they get on average, but that running back that gets a shitload of carries. Right. And I was just worn out, man. But I got a ton of experience, and just me getting to the national tournament alone, I knew kind of opened some of the doors, you know, moving forward and whatnot. So
how did that door open with Nebraska State? Like, how do you make that transition?
So what happened
Did you have
was,
someone reach out to you, or
funny enough, again, I was kind of in that situation where I was trying to sell myself to people.
Yeah.
And
in what kind of way?
What's funny? So I we were talking about Lolo and Deshaun. They had went to the NHSCA's out in Virginia Beach.
Yeah.
And I went out there. I had already reached out to coaches through Facebook. This is kind of the guy I am.
For sure. So
I reached out to Oregon State. I reached out to Wyoming. For whatever reason, Arizona State just refused to recruit me. Their old coach, Sean Charles, he loved Deshaun and he wanted Deshaun and
what did he have Deshaun for?
Deshaun never actually wrestled for Arizona State because him and Lolo ended up having to go JUCO because of their grades. But he really loved Deshaun.
Yeah.
And whatever, that was that deal.
So that's the whole reason why you ended up pivoting to a whole other spot?
No, well, in high school I wanted to go to Arizona State, but
Right.
he was recruiting Deshaun.
Right.
And it was kind of the same thing the next year. But
were you guys the same grade?
No, he was a grade younger.
Oh, okay.
But Oregon State already had a guy that beat me that year, so they weren't interested in
Right.
me. And he was redshirting. So they were going to take him out, and he was going to be the starter next year. And I lost to a guy at Reno in a close match named Drew Templeman from Wyoming.
Isn't that match on YouTube?
Yeah,
I've
on Full Wrestling. I wrestled him twice in one weekend.
He's wearing like some weird castle like singlet or something?
No.
It's like something weird like...
He just wrestled in Wyoming. I think he is. I don't know.
I think I seen that.
I think he had an elbow pad.
How close to that match though?
No, I beat him up both times pretty good, but me trying to get to Nebraska or me trying to get to Wyoming, their coach said, "Hey, you know, we don't have any money," and you know, and in their eyes, they probably thought we already have a guy that beat him. Like,
right.
Regardless if he's a national qualifier, we have the guy that beat him.
Right.
And so, Joey Bracamonte, do you remember him?
Yep.
So Joey Bracamonte, shout out Joey, just a great supporter of me since I was a little boy.
For sure.
He always loved me. He always believed in me. And he had a friend that he went to JUCO with a guy, and I should remember his name, but I don't right now. They wrestled at Lassen together in California in JUCO.
Mm-hmm.
That guy ended up going to Nebraska. He was an All-American his senior year. And Joey reached out to him because he was coaching at a JUCO in Kansas, and Joey was saying, "Hey, you need to go here, JUCO. You still have a redshirt year. You could just go there and redshirt and bounce out." Well, that guy basically called me and said, "Hey, you're too good to come here. You know, if it's your last resort, of course I'll take you, but you're too good to come here." And so that guy called Brian Snyder, who's still the associate head coach in Nebraska now, and said, "Hey, this guy's looking for a place." And I talked to Brian. And Snyder is still one of my really good friends, and basically he just said, you know, "We got to get you out here for a visit." And I said, "No, I don't need a visit. Just send me the money. Just send me the scholarship, and I'll sign right now." So they sent me a scholarship.
Really?
I just showed up for summer school, and
you just said, "I'm in."
Yeah.
All in.
Didn't know anybody. Showed up. I had to stay a few days before the dorms opened with a couple of former teammates, and.
Were you dormed with like your wrestling teammates, or were you guys?
Yeah, so I dormed with a kid named Colton McChrystal.
Is he like same weight as you, kind of ish?
He was initially, which was kind of weird. It kind of caused a little bit of tension.
So you guys wrestled off? We
didn't. I ended up redshirting. Well, yeah, we ended up wrestling off later because the problem was we had a really good 141 pounder, and McChrystal was really a 141 pounder. Right. He wasn't a 133.
So you ended up having to bounce back.
But he was one of those guys that could cut 30 pounds, and was still as strong and as tough as he was at 141. And so,
hey, me and you don't got no fat to give up, bro.
I know, man.
You get what you get.
And
get
so,
what you see.
Yeah, I roomed with him, and then after that year of living in the dorms with him, I went and lived a new place every year with different teammates.
What is it like in Nebraska, man? I mean, like day one, you step up to practice. Like, what do they do to kind of bring you guys together? You know, do they basically just drill you guys to freaking death and make you guys just bond over that?
It's the Big Ten. Nebraska's a blue collar program.
Yeah.
I just knew when I got there that I needed to make an impression right away. And we had some really good guys. We had a real good 125. The plan was for me to go 125, and thankfully that plan didn't end up being what it was. Tim Lambert was supposed to go up to 33, and I was supposed to go at 25, but Tim Lambert was at 125.
Yeah.
He was just too small for 133.
Right.
And I got in there, and that was my guy. We just started getting after it. And when I first got there, he was kind of beating me up, but kind of just who I am as a person, I kind of started to figure things out and started kind of catching up to him. And I think over time they kind of saw that, and they saw the work I was putting in, and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah.
I had to go in there and earn every ounce of respect.
I believe it. I mean, it's not one of those teams that you could just show up and it's like, hey, this is my deal. I'm gonna do what I want. It's like, no, this thing already exists. You gotta show how you can fit in here.
And
you know what I mean?
And that's the deal. And I'm not gonna get into specifics, but I've had people, right, at various colleges, kids I've helped, or with recruiting and stuff, and it's about there's always a complaint about I'm not getting enough attention, I'm not getting enough love.
Yeah.
But what they have to understand is this is not high school. You still coach wrestling, like junior wrestling. There's really no junior wrestling, right?
Yep.
And do you help with the high school too?
I do, yeah.
So you know how it is. Like, even if you help with the high school level, you're going to get maybe a couple grand a year.
Right.
Okay? It's a very thankless job when it comes to financial terms.
Dude, junior wrestling, non-profit. Just show up.
And that's the way it should be.
What you give.
And that's the way it should
Yeah.
be. But the thing is what these parents don't understand is, especially when you go to a place like Nebraska, right? These guys aren't getting paid for the same things that you are doing at junior wrestling or high school. That's their job.
Right.
They're getting paid to win.
Right.
And collegiate, just college athletics in general, if you're not producing, you're going to get fired.
Yep.
And your whole staff's going to go with you. And so they're not there to just try and go the extra yard to be your friend or be your buddy.
Right.
They're trying to win.
Right.
And
even if it's hitting you with the hard truth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, if you're not getting the moral of the story is if you are producing for them, and if you are a guy that shows that you can go to the national tournament, qualify right, and get there and score points for the team,
right,
they're not going to not give you attention.
Right.
But overall, they're going to focus their attention on the guys that are going to help them continue to produce.
For sure.
And it's not a bad thing. Of course they could always give love to everybody, but it's just the hard truth.
Yeah.
It's what they do for a living.
So you knew that going into it, and you're like, I got to do everything I possibly can.
I just knew that I needed to be the hardest worker, and I knew that at some point when it was my time to step up to bat, I was going to have to produce. Otherwise, I was just going to kind of fall into that you have your guys who are starters, you have your guys that are All-Americans, you have your guys that are bucking for a title, and you have your guys that are walk-ons, you have your guys that are practice partners, and I refused to be a practice partner. And that I just knew going into it, like, hey, I want to be the guy at this weight. And it was decided eventually that I was going to move up in weight, and I needed to take a redshirt year, which I still had, to put some size on and still develop my skills for that next season. And that's
how many times were you ever in the room with Jordan Burroughs?
Every day when he was in town.
So he would show anytime he's in town, he's in the room with
He
you
was
guys?
working out with us every day. Not with me per se, but with the guys around his weight that are on the college team. And then he's still doing that because he's still competing. So he's at the University of Pennsylvania now. So he's working out with those guys and other RTC, meaning regional training center guys. So
you never went live with them?
No, I mean we had a couple days here and there.
Shark bait, jump in there.
Something like that. I actually just saw him a few weeks ago because I went back to Lincoln for the Big Ten tournament.
For those of you guys who don't know, Jordan Burroughs is one of the greatest wrestlers.
The greatest at this point, in my opinion. But
he's the debatable GOAT from the United States of America. And he went to the same college that Eric went to, Nebraska State, right?
University of Nebraska.
University of Nebraska. I don't know why I always say Nebraska State.
That's right, man.
So University of Nebraska, Jordan went on to be an Olympic champion. So, that's why I asked, because even though he finished the Olympics, you always go back to your roots, right? Like if he's gonna go wrestle with any college, it's gonna be you guys.
Well, yeah, that's the reason for the regional training centers. The reason for the regional training centers is, as far as Olympic wrestling goes, international wrestling, the place where people used to go for all that training was Colorado Springs.
Right.
Well, the deal is Colorado's the Olympic or the United States Olympic Organization, whatever you want to call it. They don't have enough money to pay all these guys to live there and actually support themselves and whatnot. So we created these things called the regional training centers. And a lot of colleges have them now, and every year more and more get them. It's basically a way to not move them to Colorado Springs, let them make a living while they're training and pursuing their Olympic dream.
Right.
And so Jordan lived there the entirety of the time I was in Lincoln. I got to be around him all the time. Like I said, I saw him a few weeks ago, 3-4 weeks ago. It was March, maybe the first, second weekend of March.
Where at?
I went down to Lincoln because the Big Tens just happened to be there this year. So he made his way back there because it was in Lincoln. He was giving out awards and whatnot. Right. I got to see him the first night there, and then the last night, the athletic trainer who's been there for years, Tyler Weeda. Shout out Tyler Weeda. We went back to his house after the last night of competition.
So you got to hang out a little bit, whatever.
Yeah, when I see him, it's I don't. Originally, I was starstruck, but now it's just like he's just kind of a normal person to me. But he's a really good person.
It's almost like a senior year you went to high school with your friends. Yeah. See him, it's like, what up?
Yeah, hey, what's up, man? What are you doing? Oh, stop. And
like the picture part's gone.
Yeah, exactly. And he was actually an assistant coach the second year I was there, so he was on staff.
Has he ever, if you were to say you got anything out of, being around him or any conversations, would you say there was any moment that you kind of were like, this helped out a lot? Or was it more just like, you were on your own path and you didn't like need those gems? You were almost kind of self-driven.
I would say two things. So when I got there, I started to think like, okay, so I have the best wrestler in the world in my room. Well, I'm going to stay every day and practice until he leaves. And every day I would stay until he left.
Yeah.
And after a while, he kind of started to notice, like, why are you? I said, because if I stay after you leave, I'm going to get better.
Right.
And I'm not just saying staying after and not doing shit, staying after and being active and being productive with it. Like one of his regimens is after practice, he stretches for a very long time.
Right.
And also he's married and has a lot of kids, and I think that was kind of his escape. Not for any terrible reason, but he just wanted to get away,
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm going to stay longer than him. And so I made that a goal. So I wouldn't say I took anything away from him. I just knew that was kind of a thing for me in my head was I need to stay as long, if not longer, than Jordan Burroughs. And then number two is he's just such there's no defining moment, but like he's just a really, really good person. And,
family man, we're talking on and off the mat.
I mean, that guy, if you think about it, he's won every wrestling competition you can win at the highest levels. He's a very, he's a handsome man. He's a good looking dude. You know what I mean? If that guy wanted to be single and live the single life, he could probably get any woman he wants.
For sure, yeah.
But he doesn't. Like you say, he's a family man.
Yeah.
He's very loyal to his wife, and he doesn't drink. He doesn't do anything. I'm sure he does maybe on occasion, but he lives a very, very disciplined life.
You have to.
And I think for me, that's what I kind of took from it at that time. Now I drink and I indulge in the things that I didn't used to. I never had a drink of alcohol until, after, going into my senior year of college.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, he's just a great example for.
That's good, man. Yeah. I can imagine, having someone like that in the room. You cannot benefit in some way. And just
for sure.
Like you said, that self goal that you had for yourself.
Yeah.
No matter what you're doing, just as long as I leave after him, it's gonna, pay off in some way or another, And
Sure.
it did. I mean, look, it's not like you went to Nebraska and got your ass kicked, You went to Nebraska and you made a name for yourself.
Oh yeah.
And I remember watching Flow Wrestling and hearing, out of Albuquerque.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's weird, huh?
And they would say out of Albuquerque, Eric Montoya. And I'm like, damn straight out of Albuquerque, this homie's putting on.
And I was always very proud of that because...
Yeah, because it's not very common.
It's not common, and Albuquerque's a rough place.
It is.
You don't have to grow up... Right now, we're in the war zone. I mean...
Yeah.
For those that don't know, where we're sitting right now is
might have heard a couple gunshots.
It is in the middle of the war zone, so you know it's not Albuquerque's
place.
not the most friendly place in the world.
It's not, and people don't realize that. You know, people are quick to brush off Albuquerque and brush off New Mexico. It's just like, oh, whatever. But the people that grow up here are tougher in a different kind of way than everywhere else in the world.
Yeah, and that's why I think personally, Albuquerque in a way can be a gold mine for wrestling.
It
because
can.
These kids, depending on where they're from, they'll cut their arm off for you. You know what I mean? They're loyal because they haven't had that love and that mentorship.
Yeah.
And if you give them a little bit of love, a little bit of attention, the things that they're missing on, they're gonna do whatever they got to do to gain your approval.
Right.
The issue is we need to get back more.
Right.
We have guys that come back from college, or maybe they move other places, and that's fine. But the people that live here, they got to get back.
Right.
And
in any
that's
way,
a hard thing to do. That's a hard
you got to become the, head chairman of New Mexico Juniorette. Like, I mean, for example, like I'm coaching Belen Junior Wrestling.
Yeah, and that's great.
And
man.
you're coaching Rio Rancho High School for a while, right?
I was for a while, and I probably still would be.
I remember seeing you with the glasses, bro. You look like Dan Gable, bro.
I had glasses on?
I feel like you did at one point, dude.
I don't know if I did. Maybe.
I saw you. I was like, dang, look at this guy, bro.
No, I mean,
how long were you the head coach of Rio Rancho?
I wasn't the head coach. I was just an assistant coach. But I was running the room, and I
saw you there.
It's a long story. I mean, basically, me and he's really family to me. The head coach of Volcano Vista. We're really tight.
What about Borrego? Are you friends with Borrego at all?
Macario?
Yeah.
I mean, I see him and stuff like that. We used to wrestle back then. I mean, I don't hang out with him, but
I ran into him. That's why I asked, because I ran into him randomly on a flight, like in California. I was in Oakland. And I saw him, we were both having a beer, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing here?
Yeah, he's a good dude, man.
He's
been over there. He's been over there since the beginning.
He cut the dub on Deshaun that one year.
He did. That was a huge win.
Yeah, I'll never forget that, because I grew up wrestling, like you, I grew up wrestling Mac. Yeah, we had those wars. And, when we're not the same weight, I'm fanning for Mac,
Sure.
And I think we actually were the same weight that year, but Mac had Deshaun, and that's when he caught that dub. I was like,
yeah.
Because Deshaun,
they wrestled each other in the finals 3 times.
Yeah, but at the time, Deshaun was like, walk in the park.
Yeah.
Mac, he's got Mac in the finals. And the fact that he just
yeah, he was able. That was the same year that Deshaun beat me, which made me even more mad when we lost in the final. But getting back to your question was Volcano. Just there was some disagreements there, and
for coaching, you mean?
Yeah, just as far as how opinions and
whatnot. You can just say disagreements.
Just disagreements.
Sometimes
and
you just have different ways of doing things. You know?
Well, we've came back, and I'm not on their staff or anything, but I went through some things in life, and I had to get a house. It was time to get a house, and with everything with my son and his mom's family and my family, the best thing for me to do was to buy a house in Taylor Ranch where I grew up.
Right.
And so because of that, it's just easier for me to go to Volcano here and there when I have time, which is not often.
That's where my girlfriend went to school. Shout out Volcano.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Shout out Kiana Alvarez. I shout you out every episode.
Shout out Kiana. Never heard your name, but
Kiana.
Probably younger than me.
Yeah, I think she was like a freshman and you were a senior, maybe.
Oh, really?
Or possibly even an 8th grader.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't know her then.
Because she's like 4 years younger than me. 5.
That's a good thing. When somebody says their girlfriend's name and you're like, oh.
I know. Hey, if
that's
you're
the best thing, dude. Like, oh, I know who that is. You're like,
Kiana?
You're like, Kiana? Kiki. Oh, I remember Kiki.
The one who had the pole in her living room. I was kidding.
Start calling her by names you never heard of. Hey, Kiki. What?
Is that the one who dated?
Yeah. Albuquerque's such a small town, though, man.
And the only people I even knew, because she said, obviously, she graduated from Volcano, was you and Lawrence was the only names I was familiar with.
Yeah.
I don't really know anyone else. Oh, Ashley. I know Ashley.
Who?
Ashley Montoya. I mean, not Ashley Montoya. Ashley... Is it Ashley Montoya? I don't know. One of my best friend's girlfriends, ex-girlfriends.
Okay.
But outside of that, yeah.
I hate to cut the podcast off.
Huh?
I gotta go.
Yeah.
Take a leak.
I wanted to get back to. I kind of wanted to just touch a little bit on like, you graduated college, right? You finished, your college wrestling career.
Yep.
How long after that, before you started getting into the MMA world?
Yeah. I mean, I always wanted to be a fighter. That was kind of my goal, like going into like my senior year of college was like, I'm going to, at that time, which is now Jackson Wink, was still really popping.
Mm-hmm. That was when Johnny Hendricks was like reigning still.
Yeah, but I don't.
Oh no, that was he came here after. He was like somewhere else.
He came here at the end of his career.
But still, John, obviously. Holly,
everybody, right? They had a long list of guys, and it was a combination of a few things. At the end of the day, I was getting into my marriage at the time. We were expecting a baby, and I had put everything in my being into chasing being a national champion. And when that was done, I just wasn't willing to be selfish like I needed to be in order to chase that dream. And my partner at the time, I don't think she fully understood what it would have taken. And that's not a knock on her. We were really young at the time, but...
How old were you? Like 21, 22?
No, we were 23.
23, okay.
23-ish, and...
See, you already knew, like, what it takes. It's not
100%.
like... it's not something you could just be like, yeah, I'm going to go twice a week, and,
Well, the deal was when we moved back, we were staying at her grandma's.
Was she from Nebraska?
No, we met... we knew each other since high school.
Oh, okay.
And the deal was she wanted to kind of get out of there so we can get her own place and whatnot, and it was already kind of predetermined.
Right.
But the deal is when you have rent to pay, you got to have a full-time job.
Yeah.
And I was trying it a little bit, but like I said, I was kind of half, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You just can't do that when you're trying to pursue that goal.
Right.
And I think and again, it's not a knock on her. You know what I mean? She got pregnant. It takes two people to make that happen.
To tango.
And I had every intention on marrying her at the time before we even knew. But at the end of the day, in a way, it's kind of a blessing because I've not taken the damage that I probably would have taken. And I have no doubt I could have reached the pinnacle of the sport. That's easy to say when you're not doing it, but barring any injury and staying healthy. But, yeah, man, and then I think the whole Jackson thing kind of started to... That was kind of the beginning of, not the end, but maybe they'll rebuild up. Hopefully they do, and they get back to where they were at one point. But I just kind of didn't see the same... I didn't see the same opportunity there that I saw when I was still in college and what I was looking forward to. I saw something different.
It changed.
I
mean, we can all say that it changed.
And I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to knock on them or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't know how to manage a gym, so
I mean, I'm sure it's probably the most challenging thing ever.
Sure.
And then you're trying to manage new people coming in, and then you got your legends, and then you got your.
They just had so many guys.
And then they have no control over what talent comes in or out.
Sure.
Like, they can only deal with the people that are in front of them.
And I'm the type of guy where, like, it probably wouldn't have worked out anyway because I don't, like, I'm going to go do what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to, I mean, you're not paying me money.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're not paying the athlete money. So why can't I just go and work out at 5 different places, which guys do?
Right.
You know, at the end of the day,
you got to do what's best for yourself.
They're getting paid by the athlete.
MMA is a selfish sport.
It is. And so, but now that I've been in coaching and stuff like that, I never really had the desire to go and try and get myself into that gym.
Right.
For my own reasons. Nothing personal. Just how I feel about what I want to do and how I want to spend my time. The only reason I'm even helping with Landon Venata is because I had a good friend of mine, Harry Ledger. I don't know if you know him anyways, but he's a former Judo USA World Team member. Black belt under John Donaher at Henzo Gracie's Academy in New York, which is like John Donaher is the one that coaches like the best of the best. So Harry's just top of the food chain kind of guy, and he knew, like, just by being around me, like, this is a real guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so he said, hey, Landon's former coach is moving.
Shout out Groovy Londo.
Yep. He said his former coach is moving on to something else, and so basically that opportunity kind of opened up, and I said, yeah, I'll come by and work out, but I'm not you got to ask me for help. If somebody wants me to come on and they say, hey, you want to come do this,
right.
I'll do it. But
that's how I am. That's how I am too. Yeah. I'm not gonna go fishing, but if you have the balls to ask me, make it happen. Even like us leading up to this podcast, it's like people don't realize. It's like, well, how come you haven't asked me? I'm like, dude, just ask.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
but so like with Groovy Londo, like, so you got connected with him. What was that like when you guys first started working together? Did he have a lot of wrestling experience, or did you kind of have to?
So he wrestled in high school. I think he wrestled a season or part of a season. I think one season for Chattanooga.
Okay.
Which is a Division I down in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And of course I was familiar with him. And I said, yeah, I'll go by. Like.
He was at Jackson at the time, or what?
He's at Jackson's Acoma now, which is
right down the road. Is it south?
It's right there off of San Mateo and Acoma. Yeah, just south. Yeah, across from Walmart, right there.
Yep.
And so I went and worked out with them, and it was kind of like, you want to come on board? And I said, yeah, cool, let's do it. And so for me, it's more of I'm not giving him so much direction. It's more I go in there to try and push him, and give him tips when I see it.
Yeah.
MMA is a whole different world. There's a whole lot of aspects to it that aren't involved in wrestling.
Right.
And so I try not to push the boundary as far as like what I don't know.
Right. We have to find that perfect medium, that language in the middle.
Yeah, but there's times where I've had to say, hey, I think this, and that's pretty much it. I'm just an advisor, and I'm just kind of I'm along for the ride.
What was it like being in the corner, like at a UFC event?
Crazy, man. Crazy. It kind of got you back in that feeling of being. Kind of got me back in that feeling of being in Division I, like at the national tournament with all those cameras.
That crowd.
But it wasn't anything I wasn't accustomed to. It's just it's different. It's different.
Is it kind of nice not having the pressure on yourself, and you kind of? Or
no,
do you
because
almost wish you were the star?
You do have pressure because if like the last guy he fought, which is the first time I cornered him, was against Mike Grundy, which is a wrestler. And so, in that fight, I do feel the pressure.
Like, hey, the wrestling coach is going to be the one he's going to be.
Well, it's like if he went out there and hadn't done a good job with the wrestling aspect of the fight, then who does it fall on? It falls on him. Match? So that guy attempted a lot of takedowns, but he wasn't very successful. It was just a weird matchup.
Yeah.
This guy that he's fighting, I believe his name's Charles Jourdain.
Okay.
Last name's Jourdain for sure. They call him Air Jourdain.
Yeah.
They're fighting April 30th.
Orlando?
Yes. Yeah, out in Las Vegas at the Apex. So I'll be out there. I leave the 28th. So that'll be...
this month?
Yeah.
Word.
Yeah, so I worked out with him yesterday.
He looks good, bro.
He looks good. He's lean.
Looking a lot better, even as...
Well, it's the way he should be at. Because at 55, I think he was
That's way too big.
I think he's just a little bit too small. And not too small.
But he's still got his power where he's at. It's not like he lost any power.
Well, he does it right. He cuts the weight right. A lot of people think when you go down in weight, it's not... a lot of times it doesn't work out for you. More times not, it doesn't work out for you. But he really does belong at that weight.
That's good.
He just has to continue to do what he's doing. And he's a pretty self-sufficient guy, meaning, like, you don't... Like, his camp doesn't have to get on him to do the things that, like, he needs to do.
How does it go for those UFC events? Like, do you kind of just... Like...
It's not a vacation, that's for sure.
Really?
You're there for him. And when we were out in Houston, which was almost a year ago, last May, COVID was still pretty rampant, and we had to stay put in the hotel because you don't want to be that guy that somehow gets COVID and now
test
he
positive,
can't fight.
Then it's like whatever.
He's taking away money out of his income, know. And so, but Landon's a pretty disciplined guy. I don't know how he was earlier in his career. I wasn't around him. I don't know if he's always been the same way or what, but you don't have to get on him. He knows what he needs. He's been in there enough times to where he kind of tells you, hey, I need this, I need that.
He's not like a self-destructive guy.
Absolutely not. But it is a weird game because obviously in wrestling you have a little more control as a coach to say, hey, you're going to go do this and going to go do that.
Right.
Whereas in MMA, depending on the fight, like with this fight coming up, it's not so much of a wrestling game
but
plan
you still
approach.
Gotta be there.
I still got to be there.
I mean,
but like I'm just saying it's more hands off. Whereas
Yeah.
maybe last time, like if there was something that was catching my attention, you might have to have a tough conversation, which we never have had to have, because he's so self. He's self-sufficient.
Right.
He knows what he needs to do, and so
Is he
last
pretty-
camp was super heavy wrestling.
So is he? Would you say he's like a pretty easy guy to coach as far as like, you giving him constructive criticism and whatnot?
Yeah, but in all honesty, I don't really have to give him a whole lot. I tend.
Are you guys the same weight?
No,
More or less?
No,
Like-
he's bigger than me.
Oh, okay.
But he's one of those guys. I've taken more of like a hands-off approach. It's like I'm trying to teach him more through feel.
Yeah.
Number one, he's older than me.
Yeah.
It's going to be difficult to listen to someone that's younger and say, hey, you need to go do this, you need to go do that.
We just gotta
If
get
I
him.
have to tell him, I'm going to tell him.
Right.
But for the most part, like I said, he's self-sufficient. So I have taught him, I think, in my own right, through us just working out and giving him different looks. That's my job. And I tell him all the time, like, I used to be able to ride him easy, and now I can't ride him. He's learning. Being a self-learner is huge.
That's good.
And when you have a self-learner, there's not a whole lot you have to say.
Because you're a self-learner yourself.
Yeah, if you're a competitor and you want to be the best of the best, you're gonna learn through feel.
Right.
And that's what most of wrestling is.
How old is he, by the way?
He just turned 30.
30? Okay.
I think he just turned 30. I might be wrong.
He just got married too, huh?
Yeah, he just got married. Yeah.
I follow him on Instagram. I was like, yo, proud of you, bro.
Yeah, he's a good dude, man. He's
He seems like I'm a fan of him, bro. But he hasn't fought in a while, though, huh?
Well, what happened was,
because I mean,
we were in camp. We were in camp for another fight.
Okay.
And he didn't like mess up like he didn't tear an ACL or anything like that. He had like got like a stress fracture.
On his knee.
Something. I
Enough to pull him back.
Enough to put him out.
Yeah.
And I like that matchup. I like this matchup too. So it wasn't a huge deal.
What weight is he, by the way?
45. So same weight as Volkanovski. Same weight as Holloway. All those guys. So
Dude, from 35 to 50? Holy shit. Or 55.
Yeah, 55.
It's a whole different ball game, bro. Even from when we grew up, I just remember, like, there was always just one dominant guy and everyone else was just trash.
Yeah.
It seemed like it.
Yeah.
But now it's like the 8th ranked guy could possibly beat the... You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For example,
Chimaev, yeah.
Chimaev.
Yeah.
I mean, what is he ranked? Like 9th or something ridiculous?
I don't know what he's ranked.
I think he's ranked like 9th or 8th.
Yeah,
and he's
down there.
going to go against, one of the, top 2. What is it?
I think Burns is number 2.
So if Burns wins this, he's getting title shot regardless.
So they go champion, and then they do their ranking. I don't know why they do it like that. They should just go number 1 is the champion. But
yeah,
for whatever reason,
weird,
they
right?
go champion, then they
Number
go
1,
1, 2, 3. So, yeah, Gilbert Burns is, I guess, technically the 3rd ranked fighter in the world, right? Like it's
pound for pound?
No. It's at welterweight. So it's Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington, and then it's Gilbert Burns.
Right.
So yeah,
talk about a tough weight class, man.
Yeah, man, that's gonna be an interesting fight.
Even just seeing Usman fight Colby these last couple times, it just makes me like, if those guys fought, 10 times, I really do think it'd be split down the middle.
Really?
I mean, even the last time they fought, it felt like it was split down the middle. And
I thought the first
before,
time Colby fought him, I thought Colby gave him a better go from the get go.
Yeah. Just toe to toe, talking grappling. We're talking guys who used to live with each other, best friends, former best friends.
You remember him he fought Masvidal?
Oh yeah, Masvidal.
Yeah, that was a one-sided.
Sorry, yeah. So yeah, Masvidal too. Like that, I still refuse to personally, I just don't want to believe like the beef, but I guess it is real. I mean, obviously.
You try to attack somebody outside their, or you try to attack somebody's family, man. They're gonna.
And that's the thing. Everyone's like, "Oh, how can Masvidal do that?" And I'm like, "You're the same guy who's just praising him whenever he gave Leon Edwards a 3-piece in a soda."
Yeah.
And everyone's like, "Ah!" I'm like, "What's the difference? You
There
just
is
did
no
the same
difference.
thing, except it was on Miami streets."
The only issue I have with it is just like, yeah, he talked about your family before the fight. He had 25 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, but
That's the same thing.
I also understand the dynamic of, it's like if you had a street fight between Masvidal and Colby Covington, I feel like 10 times out of 10, Masvidal's gonna win that fight.
Yeah.
If you put them in the cage, 10 times out of 10, Colby's gonna beat Masvidal.
Yeah.
There's just a different dynamic and a different type of anxiety in the streets. It's obviously far less controlled of an environment. You know, Masvidal's not somebody you want to see in the streets.
Yeah.
You know, and Colby's the kind of guy where he says what he says, but
He's just like a reincarnated Chill, in my opinion.
oh, I agree.
Don't you think? Like,
Yeah, much better though. But yes.
Well, oh yeah, like you're much hated, much more hated.
People thoroughly hate Colby.
Yeah. You know, but at the same time, like the people that know him the most, or the people that I know that have hung out with him, are like, he's not like this in person.
No,
like it's all work, right?
He can't be, because you see the interviews of him
Yeah.
before he started to do this. They
Exactly.
call it heel.
But then when you realize they were about to cut him from the UFC before the Brazilian card, like you almost like realize like what other choices this guy have?
Yeah.
Because his fight style isn't the most exciting.
Yeah.
According to opinion, right? But like before that, they're like, oh, he's just bored. Like he just holds them down. He
to
doesn't.
the vast majority of viewers,
You know,
he's boring.
Exactly.
But to guys like us that understand wrestling and understand that grind
right.
of just being just ongoing.
Right.
You know, he doesn't stop.
Well, like you see it like it's like keeping pressure, right? Like me and you both know how hard it is to ride a guy for even more than a minute.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's very challenging to just hold someone down. And Colby does that for a whole 25 minutes.
And that's
the
dynamic going into this Chimaev versus Gilbert Burns fight that intrigues me, because there's unanswered questions there. You have a guy who, specifically Chimaev, super explosive, right? And he comes out right away. He's ready to put in work.
Mm-hmm.
But the questions I have going into this fight is, it's not easy to be explosive for 15 minutes.
Right.
And so he's been able to, with the competition he's faced so far, kind of run through them and put them away quick.
Right. Just like Sean O'Malley, it's like, who have they faced as top 10?
Exactly.
You know? It's like you can only compare them to what they fought.
For sure.
And so, sorry. Just make sure we're good. All right.
I want to see.
So it's the same. Yeah, you're right. It's like I feel like tonight is the test.
And that's why I hope it doesn't end quick. I hope it doesn't end quick, because
regardless, for both of them almost.
Because you need to see Chimaev go
I'm on the hype
there.
train, bro. I want Chimaev to keep.
But the thing is what I want to see is, I haven't seen him get hit hard. I want to see him.
Take a couple.
I want to see him take a couple, because that's gonna tell you about his chin.
What do you think Burns is going to do? Like, do you think he's going to?
I think Burns gonna try and.
Do you think he's gonna stay standing, or do you think he's gonna?
I think it's gonna. I think the fight ends one of three ways, and it's because there's unanswered questions there. I think either Chimaev goes out there and does what everybody thinks he's gonna do, which is gonna be a quick, dominating performance, or if Gilbert Burns can drag him into deep waters, which is why I'm saying, like, with the explosive movements, like typically people that are super explosive, they're more sprinters. It's just like in track, you know,
right.
like.
And that's what I think Burns is.
You think he's a sprinter? You think so? I don't know. They might
hard
both
to
be
say.
sprinters.
I'm just looking at body types, because like when I see short, stocky, big, bulky guys, I think. But then when I see a little more lanky guys like you and myself, we'll go a little farther. Yeah. We don't look like we got much, but we'll take you there.
But Chimaev is very explosive even for how tall and how lanky he is. I just wonder, like, can he do that for 15 minutes? Because you know how hard it is to mat return somebody. Right, you mat return somebody. How explosive you have to engage your hips. Like when somebody gets up 2 or 3 times, like you're exerting a lot of energy in a very short period of time. And so if he does that, and Burns is still standing there, after 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, is he going to be able to have those explosive movements later in the fight? If you have, like you said, I mean, Gilbert Burns might be a sprinter too, but we're going to find out.
Right.
That's the great thing about fighting is you find out.
I think Chimaev, I think that he has this mental switch that it's like the same as Nate Diaz. I feel like we just don't know it yet, but I feel like he has that mental psychoticness of like, you're not going to kill me unless you put me out like an animal.
Well, he's in his prime.
Yeah. And you could just see it in his confidence, and I'm so glad that the Liverpool homie started joining his camp.
Darren Till.
I'm so glad that he is with Chimaev because that's exactly what Darren Till needs.
I agree.
Because Darren Till is a gorilla. He really is. He just hasn't been mentally coached right. And I feel like by him hanging out with Chimaev, it's like, you're not going to lose. You're going to die or you're going to lose.
And he's probably making him more disciplined.
Exactly. Like,
I agree. I thought the same thing.
Killing him. Because you see these videos of, like, on the Mac Life or whatever, of, like, Darren at their camps, and Darren is getting destroyed. And he's like, I don't know. Like, he's just, like... Remember how we're talking about, like, those, like, losses that, like, shape you into, like, a better person? That's Darren at the beginning. Like, he's getting demolished. But he needs to get demolished to flip the script.
Yeah.
Because Darren... He's
super
who knows?
Talented.
He's always been told since he's a young kid, you're going to be the best. You're going to be the top. You're going to knock out, blah, blah, blah. And it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So what does that do to a young kid's mentality? You're going to either fight or flight. And by him joining Chimaev's camp, I feel like that's the best thing that could happen.
No, I agree.
I don't know, man. If I'm a betting man, I might bet on Burns.
Yeah.
Just to
for the money. For the money, you can't go wrong with Burns.
Yeah, because Burns is no joke. I mean, everyone's on the Chimaev hype train, but Burns, you can't deny what he's done is not incredible.
No, I mean, Burns is top of the food chain. His only loss in the last however many fights was to Kamaru, and even though he got dropped a shit ton of times, I mean, he hit Kamaru with some real shots, and so he wobbled him. And I think that's the most. I think he was in more danger with the Burns fight than he was with both Colby fights, in my opinion. Like I said, for me, I just want to see, can Chimaev sustain these super explosive movements, and how does he deal with getting hit with some hard shots? Because we haven't seen him get hit flush by anybody yet, much less somebody like Burns, who Burns obviously packs some sort of power. He was able to wobble Kamaru, who's at the very top of the list.
Right.
So if he hits Chimaev with some good shots and Chimaev just walks through it and just puts him to sleep, well, then we have our answers. We know.
What do we got? We got 3. We got Chimaev. We got obviously Volkanovski's the main fight, and then what's the next one?
So Volkanovski versus the Korean Zombie.
That's the main.
That's the main. The co-main event is Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling.
This is me betting man right now. I got Chimaev. I mean, I know there's a chance Burn could take him, but if I'm betting a 3-way parlay, Chimaev, Aljamain, and obviously
Volkanovski.
Yeah. I don't know why. Aljamain just looks a little different. I just feel like you said, remember even like you just described, like that moment when I was a freshman already and we wrestled.
Yeah.
And you got
Yeah.
You got to experience that, like, I need to change my shit up.
Yeah.
I feel like Aljamain, what other moment better than for him to just get completely embarrassed?
Yeah.
Like, that's gotta haunt him.
Sure.
Like, how embarrassing to have the belt and then, like, only have it because you got head kicked.
Yeah.
Like, that's gotta mess with you.
Yeah.
And, like, just looking at his Instagram, I feel like he might have, like, turned that switch the other way.
Yeah.
He looks great.
He looks good.
But Jan is nothing to mess with, dude. Jan, like, it's hard to bet against him. I'm just, like, like I said, I'm thinking of a betting man of, like, what's the best way to make money. But, like, statistically, it's Jan wins. All the people we think are going to win are going to win.
Yeah.
But Oh, man, it's hard to say.
It's going to be...
Aljamain just looks very conditioned, I will say that.
Oh,
and the fact that he got all emotional on the scale, you know, broke down.
He's a man on a mission, but he's going to have to make up a lot of ground.
What do you think of that 135 division? I mean, we still got Dillashaw.
A lot of older guys, though. You know, you got Dillashaw.
You got Sean O'Malley, though.
Sean O'Malley's a young buck coming up, but you got Aldo. Aldo's pretty old. Dominic Cruz is up there. I think that Sean O'Malley's the next is the guy that they're probably trying to push to be the champion, you know. But all those other guys we just listed are for sure in the hunt, and they're still at the top of the food chain, which is a testament to them. Jose Aldo, the greatest featherweight of all time. Dominic Cruz, the in my opinion,
he looked phenomenal last fight, by the way.
The greatest bantamweight of all time. Just an unfortunate series of injuries that have kind of fucked his career up, but
no knees.
I mean, he's just.
What about Dillashaw? I mean, obviously he has to get the title shot next. I mean, after beating,
I guess.
What was the guy that he beat?
Corey Sandhagen.
Yeah, dude.
That guy's a killer too.
Corey was on a murder spree.
Yeah.
And then when Dillashaw beat him after blowing his knee out, it's like, yeah, it wasn't as pretty as you.
Well, he was also out too because he took roids.
Yeah.
You know,
but this is him coming back without roids.
Yeah,
and he still beat him.
True.
You know what I mean, Corey?
Yeah. It could have gone either way, but the fact that it was.
But like he didn't look like Johnny Hendricks after PEDs.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like there's like fighters where you're like, okay, yes. Like he came back and he still competed.
The fact that it was even, it could have gone either way.
It's all that alchemy, dude. It's all that freaking chat. Yeah. Like, what's his name? Chad Mendes, dude.
Chad Mendes.
Hey, I don't think he was on roids. I think he was eating too much freaking.
You saw him for his last bare knuckle fight. My man was on roids, dude. And he was a good wrestler.
I love it though, dude. Some sports I'm like, just let it be.
Yeah.
Some sports I'm just like.
In fighting,
with UFC,
it almost makes sense. But the whole thing is because of those genetic enhancements, they could legitimately permanently hurt somebody.
Yeah.
So that's probably the reason why. But I mean, if you look back at Pride, look back at like Vitor Belfort, like come on,
he's the perfect example of a before and after.
Or Alistair Overeem. Alistair Overeem was.
Remember him versus Brock?
Yeah, that was ugly.
It was like watching like Rampage the game, like two monsters, like Godzilla and King Kong fight.
Two superheroes. It was amazing.
As a fan, I love that shit.
But
then when you look at like the whole thing, it's like it's kind of cheating. Like because then everyone has to do it. If one person does it, then everyone has to to keep up.
It's like
because it really is an advantage.
Hell yeah!
I don't know why I'm so glad that they legalized like weed and stuff because like that. How can that possibly make you perform better?
The whole thing too is if you look at fighting, there's so many things that could go wrong in a camp. You know, you throw one kick and it gets checked. You know what I mean? Just a list of things that could go wrong. You know what I mean? Whereas with steroids, those things are less likely to happen because your recovery is so much better.
Big time.
And so you see guys nowadays that are pulling out of fights so often for various reasons that probably wouldn't happen if they were on steroids.
Right.
But again, it's the possibility of these guys pulling out of fights for whatever reason.
Right.
It's
crazy. It's crazy to think, man. You know, which direction it could go. But I feel like USADA's done a pretty good job.
Yeah, USADA's done.
I like how they just turned the other way for Brock though. For
that fight against
Mark Hunt. They're still going against that. They're still fighting that in court.
Mark Hunt is he in? He's trying to do a lawsuit.
They're still in a battle.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, come on, dude. I mean, we all saw Brock. It's like,
come on, dude.
Even to the common fan, you look at Brock, you're like, you kidding me?
Yeah,
But what do you think about like Conor McGregor coming back and fighting Kamaru? Do you think it's just like a joke at this point, or do you think that's actually like a pretty interesting fight?
I just think that.
I mean, obviously the UFC owes Conor so much, right?
I just think that like Tyson said it best, man. Like it's hard to get up and run at 5 a.m.
It's like Rocky too.
When you're sleeping in silk sheets, man. Like he's made it. Everything he wanted to have at that very beginning of his journey, he has it
Right.
plus more. And I think that it's hard because I think he still wants to be that guy that he was. And it's not a knock on him. You know, he did it, and
he doesn't have to even be fighting at all.
he doesn't have the longevity, right?
Yeah.
Like he won 2 belts. He never defended either or of them. He didn't have that super long run like an Anderson Silva. But at the same time, too, Anderson Silva wasn't getting paid what Conor McGregor was getting paid. And if Anderson Silva was getting paid $100 million for one fight,
right.
that would change his whole entire life. Anderson Silva probably still wouldn't be fighting.
No.
And when you get that kind of money, which I've never had, I just feel like it does something to you, and it takes that animalistic,
just adds on to the distractions, and you're not as hungry. You're just not as hungry. It's as simple.
No matter how bad you want to be that hungry, you can't.
At the same time, the way I see it is Conor is the type of guy who loves like challenges.
Sure.
He attaches to like, what can I accomplish that's never been done? Like that's his goal. The champ. Like he was so driven by the champ because it's never been done.
That was before he had $100 million.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, like Conor, the fact that he's got this opportunity of being like the triple champ in a way.
Yeah. But how does he beat Kamaru Usman?
See, every fight starts on its feet.
Yeah, but I mean,
and I'm not saying
I agree.
I'm not saying that Kamaru isn't going to completely walk through him. I'm just saying I don't think Conor's going to take it as lightly as people think.
No. I think that Conor McGregor can still do some really great things.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, he got beat by Poirier, right?
Sure.
We all saw that. He got beat by Mayweather. You know.
That was going to happen regardless.
And then who did he get beat by before that?
Khabib.
So, like, I mean, if you look at his losses, it's not like you were like, oh, yeah, he's losing.
Sure.
Khabib, Mayweather, Poirier. And he was actually beating Poirier on his feet before
the first
that last one. I'm just saying, forget that one. I'm just saying it's not like he's lost and got dominated like how we see Cowboys sometimes.
I just think
like we see people who are on the down and out, like... And one of my favorite fighters still is Diego. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, you could tell, okay, you know, they still mentally got it, but they're not physically there.
I think that Conor, a good fight for him would be Jorge Masvidal. I think that's the best fight for him because it's a huge money fight. They could do the whole BMF belt thing again. And also just stylistically, Jorge's not a huge 170 pounder. Okay, he used to fight at
they're both off 3 losses, right?
Yeah, that too. And I just think that where Jorge's at in his career and where Conor's at in his career, I just think that if that's a winnable fight for Conor on paper.
Yeah.
Stylistically, like I don't see Masvidal going out there and trying to take him down.
Nah. We're gonna get a fight.
and it's gonna be a very exciting
BMF on the line.
Lead up BMF. But when you talk about Kamaru Usman, man, you're talking about a guy who's beat Colby Covington twice, Gilbert Burns, Tyron Woodley.
Yeah.
Leon
Even
Edwards.
just that alone.
Leon Edwards.
What about what's the guy who's fighting for the 155 pound next?
Wait, who's a lightweight champion? Oh, Charles Oliveira and
what's the other guy?
Islam?
No, it's not Islam yet.
Yeah,
no, he's fighting the other guy. He's fighting the white dude.
Oh, Justin Gaethje.
I feel like he'd be another good matchup for Conor.
Yeah.
Because I don't know why. I just feel like they both would just bang. But
I just don't see Conor going down to 155.
That's the worst. Nah,
he's so big now.
Dude, you're so comfortable. It's like just go for it all the way up. But I feel like Gaethje's gonna get wore out and just get.
You think so?
Dude, I used to not like Oliveira. I'm like, this guy is just awkward, weird. But every fight that I watch, I'm like, when you think of mixed martial arts, he's expressed the most diversity out of any other fighter in that weight class. He knocked out Chad Mendes.
Yeah.
I mean, he buckled Chad Mendes and finished him.
Well, did he go to decision? But he dropped him plenty of times, whether or not he did or not.
I'm pretty sure he knocked him out.
He might have.
TKO. Like, they just went and he touched the button. Chad is like a stand-up, explosive phenomena.
Super explosive.
You know what I mean? So he beat that guy. He just choked out Poirier like nothing, really. I mean, he took his back and
That was Oliveira.
Yeah, Oliveira. That's all.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant Gaethje.
No. I'm talking about Oliveira.
Yeah. I think
like
Khabib,
as far as mixed martial arts, like Oliveira's got it all.
I just think Khabib, like that would be the only fight. Like come back.
What about Makhachev? Do you think Makhachev could beat him? Because I mean, that's basically like Khabib, right? I mean, if you're looking like at the closest to Khabib,
that's a tough fight, man. I don't know. I mean, Oliveira has.
That would be an interesting fight from a ground game perspective.
It's an interesting fight
because it's two different styles.
I don't think that Islam. So I think Islam is obviously very similar to Khabib. Same camp, known each other forever. They've trained probably the same techniques and this and that. And Islam's a motherfucker to deal with. But I don't think Islam has the same mental approach to fighting that Khabib has. That's not to say that he can't beat Charles Oliveira. But when you look at Khabib, like when you look at when he fought Justin Gaethje, he literally just took shots. He took everything that Gaethje could throw at him and just pressed him to the point where Gaethje blew his entire wad in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, he got the submission, I think, in the second round.
Yeah.
But I mean...
But even by the second round, Gaethje was already like... had his hands down. It was like...
Gaethje hit him with a number of calf kicks, okay? Which nobody takes from Justin Gaethje.
Right.
But I think Khabib just had... He was on a mission. His dad passed away. He's like, I'm going to move forward on you, and I'm just going to break you. And he broke... I don't see Islam doing that to a guy just in Gaethje. I'm not saying he can't beat him.
They say Islam's get better on his feet, but I really haven't seen too much to like back that up.
He's tough, dude. I mean, he very well may be the champion, but
out of the 3 fights we just talked about, which one are you the most excited about?
Of course, the Chimaev and Burns, because I want to see somebody challenge Kamaru, and not that Colby hasn't. It's just if Colby fought. So the first time Colby fought him, I was there live. And Colby went after him right away. There was no wrestling whatsoever, which kind of sucks because what is Colby known for? He's known for taking guys down and grinding them out.
Right.
He's fought Usman for basically 50 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he hasn't done that. He got to take down this last fight.
Right.
Pretty short-lived. But the second fight, to me, the first fight, if it would have went the distance, was a tougher fight to judge. I thought Colby kind of gave him the first 2 rounds way too easy.
Right.
And then 3, 4, and 5 were kind of up for grabs. But with Chimaev, if Chimaev can just go out there and just smoke Gilbert Burns and just answer all those questions.
Do you think Chimaev is going to like just like almost like show off his explosiveness and just like grind him as quick as he can? Or do you think he's just going to settle back and like let him? Because I see Chimaev like not only trying to win, but like make a statement. Like he didn't have to carry that last opponent to Dana White and tell him I'm the king.
But do you see him doing that to Gilbert Burns?
I see him being that psychotic that he might try and do it.
But what happens if Gilbert Burns is still standing there 2 rounds later?
That's what makes it fun.
That's that.
So we're going to a parlay after this at a Sletta. What would you 3 right now?
I would do like just. Are you asking me like if I had to bet my life
money,
on it?
Like what are you gonna put money
I would
on?
go Volkanovski, Burns, and Jan, because I think those other 2 fights, the 2 title fights that are on the card tonight, I think are a little bit more. Questions have kind of been answered. We've already seen Jan and Aljamain, even though Aljamain might give him a bigger test, and then Volkanovski's beaten everybody that's beaten the zombie. With Chimaev, it's like rolling the dice. You know
the only reason I'm pretty stagnant on Chimaev is because of just all of the stories that I've heard through people that have trained in his camp, like legit, like honest to God stories, and they're like, what you've seen on the UFC display, it's like you haven't even seen his full potential. And when I hear that, it's like, yeah, it sounds like myths or like whatever, but I've heard it through like multiple people. I hope
that's the case. I hope that's the case.
Damn, dude.
I hope that's the case, but at the same time,
dude, just goes out there and just gets uppercutted, dude, first exchange.
If I can bet $50 and win 1,000 in betting against Chimaev,
we should go to a Sletta. Let's put the parlay.
We'll put it in, man.
I mean, what are we gonna try and make a G tonight?
Shit. I think I did the math on it. If the odds are still somewhat similar,
Who's the biggest
$100 or $50?
I would probably say Aljamain is the biggest underdog.
I would say that, I don't
Looking
know.
at how bad
him or the Zombie.
Ooh, you're right. The Zombie actually. I don't see any chance of the Zombie winning. If I'm being completely honest.
I don't either. His last performance.
Did you see Volkanovski's last fight with
fucking amazing. Ortega.
That's one of the best fights. Dude, I bought that fight by myself at my house. Because I was just like, I have to see this. So it was so worth it.
You live out here. What was it like growing up in like Belen, man?
In Belen?
Yeah.
It was pretty crazy, man. You know, I mean, obviously, you when you grow up in a certain area, you kind of have to adapt, or, you know, you just get kicked to the dirt.
When did you move here?
I moved here, you know, like maybe halfway through college. Or actually right after college, maybe.
Do your parents still live in Belen?
Yeah.
What do they do?
My dad, he's a security officer at Sandia, and my mom's a teacher there in the area. So
yeah, man, I always ask that because that's like country, man.
Yeah,
it's almost like people don't think that because like Albuquerque, everybody from outside of New Mexico thinks like it's nothing but like Hispanics, but it's like I don't know, man. Like there's a lot of like white folk out there, right? And like
I mean, I'm like 40% Irish. One of my great-great-grandfathers was Flanagan, came from Ireland to work on the railroad down here.
Oh, shoot.
So, like, I got that fighting Irish in me. I got the Mexican fight in me. My dad, he's Hispanic, and he's, like, one of those farmer guys you can't get off his tractor or his horse, you know? So, real, like, small,
Did you grow up on a farm?
Pretty much, yeah. Grew up throwing bales of hay, riding steers, riding bulls, doing rodeos.
Really?
Yeah, like just like the typical stereotypical cowboy thing. That's how I grew up. So I think that might have had to do with why I was like able to like have, you know, mental toughness in wrestling and stuff like that, because my dad would make me dig like a 1.5 mile ditch.
What?
Yeah, like it, you know, like just little tasks that you do like when you're younger.
Yeah.
And then you get put into wrestling and it's like, oh, I'm already used to this. So it kind of like prepared me for like that sport in a way. But like as far as school goes, that's a whole different story as far as fighting and stuff like that. You know, I feel like there's a lot of potential in the MMA world in Belen that hasn't been
or just Los Lunas, Belen.
Yeah, it's like Belen, Valencia County, like you just mentioned earlier, Stevie Garcia.
Yeah.
Like I feel like if Stevie Garcia was coached by the right person in high school, he probably could have been one of the best fighters, you know, in New Mexico. Like
yeah, that's why I brought him up, because I know like Valencia, Belen, Los Lunas. Like so with Aaron Griego, like we grew up with him.
Yeah.
Our dads met in the fire academy. They used to live right there off of Central and Trisco. When they moved to Los Lunas and they built a custom house or two, the first one was in Los Lunas right there by the high school. And then they moved out to Los Chavez and built another right there off Bombero Circle.
Okay.
You know where
that's a good area.
Where the fire station is?
Yep.
So we were out there a number of times a year throughout the years.
Yeah.
Through Los Lunas and then through Los Chavez. And I just remember as a kid, like, it's like back then at that time, it was like when I went out there, it was like I was like cut off from the rest of the world. I didn't have a cell phone at the time. I was like a kid, just sleepovers.
Well, each house has like 2 acres in between it. You know what I mean? Like, I love it. Whereas here, it's like can't even breathe. You know?
Yeah, and I think to me, like personally, like I wouldn't mind living like I don't know about Los Chavez. That's pretty far. Belen's pretty far, but like Bosque Farms, Peralta, Los
Bosque
Lunas,
Farms.
Like that. Like to me, those are like it's
you
nice
want to
get out of the
you want to have a little bit of space, right? You want to have a little bit of room to breathe.
Because out here, it's like dealing with traffic and stuff like that. It's kind of a pain in the ass, man. You know.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like how was like you growing up out there? Like if it was super different from like now where you live here now.
Yeah, it is, man. I mean, it's less congested and stuff like that. But I mean, I can't like say like that we grew up like the kids and stuff like that were that much different than Albuquerque.
Sure.
Because I feel like we all kind of grew up the same type of like experiences where, you know, you have your confrontations, you know, you have your schools that, you know, I mean, I don't mean to bag on New Mexico, but we're one of the lowest in education.
Sure.
And so, you get teachers who don't care about you as much and stuff like that. But that all goes back to like what you were saying earlier. It's like people who have been through the ringer, like me and you, have like a responsibility we carry to like give back.
Yeah.
It's like whether we like it or not, it's kind of like our duty. And it doesn't mean that we got to do a specific thing or be a teacher or be whatever. But like, for example, you got to just do what you can with the short time that you're here on Earth, and give back in some type of way. Because people do accept it. Like, look at the people that gave back to you, like in your wrestling career. That meant a lot to you than what you could have ever even, imagined.
That's like I was telling you, like yesterday I went, I woke up, I did some other stuff, and I went and I helped Josh Moda's dad. Rudy Moda, he's running for sheriff.
Shout out Josh Moda, SWAT team.
Yep. And Rudy's running for sheriff, so he was asking if anybody wanted to go help, like make signs and make shirts, because he's running for sheriff. It's like, those are guys like through the wrestling world. Like, we got to get back to each other. You know, I don't need anything out of it. I don't need any sort of pat on the back or for him to reciprocate. Anything I did for just helping make signs. It's just like we got to help each other out. That's how it was back in the day. And so, the wrestling community is super tight, and I think that, like you said earlier before, like it opens doors for everybody.
Right. And
so, like him, he was one of the people that kind of talked me into being a cop, and I had never really thought about it before. It's weird because my brother was a cop throughout my college career, and I was like, I'm never gonna be a cop. But I got my degree, and I told my brother, I was like, hey, you think I can get a job like in the county?
Business or what?
Yeah. And I was
General
like,
management?
Yeah.
Same here.
And I was like, hey, I told my brother's name is PJ. I'm like, do you think I get a job like in the county? Something like that? But like he's like, yeah, call Rudy. He'll probably could help you out.
Yeah.
I called Rudy. I'm like, hey. He's like, have you ever thought about being a cop? Like, just hearing him say it, somebody different, I was like, maybe I should think about this, Yeah. And now here I am. I'm a cop. I've been on for a couple of years now, so I don't mind giving back to people.
For sure.
We got to give back, whether it's wrestling or just people that you've known for a long time through wrestling. You got to get back, because Albuquerque is one of those cities. It's a super big. We got like within the metro and the people outside, it's like 1 million people, but it still feels kind of small enough to where a lot of people.
It's a gold mine of potential, and I've said it over and over again. And don't think that like you've done less or done too much to give back.
Yeah.
Even if you give back all that you know and that's it, that's all that matters,
Sure.
I mean, even if even from a wrestling experience, let's say you don't know that many moves, but you know how to freaking hip toss someone like no one other. Go somewhere, teach them that.
Yeah.
Some kid needs that. I think it even helped out, like even me as an adult, years after high school. During COVID, we weren't allowed to do junior wrestling, so I went, and luckily I have a friend who's training MMA, Javier Mijo. He would go grapple with Rico once a week at Ray's, what is it, the Beast?
NM Beast.
Ray Woods, his gym.
Shout out Ray.
Shout out to Ray Woods for even just allowing me to go in there without having to pay him and just go train. So Rico was there teaching the high schoolers. Real Woods, I've wrestled live with Real Woods a couple times there.
Tough.
Even Isaac Garcia. Shout out Isaac Garcia.
Which one's Isaac Garcia?
He wrestled for Highlands. He's like he looked like a twin. I thought he was a twin, but he's from Manzano, state champ from Manzano. Just some tough guys that were just in and out of that room that taught me a lot. And I know Rico, me and you go way back, bro. I remember you wrestled Pat Armijo, one of my homies, in the finals.
Little Rico.
Took him. And I always thought you were Rico looks like one of those guys who just like looks tougher than crap. Like he just looks like you don't want to talk to him. But then when I actually got to wrestle with Rico and hang out with him, he's like one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Yeah, one of the nicest, chillest guys I've ever met. And maybe next time we have you back on the podcast, we'll get Rico with you or something. And like I said, man, like this is isn't one of those podcasts where it's like, so tell me about your career. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just like us hanging out, bro. And that's how relationships grow, is just by hanging out like friends.
Sure.
And everyone who's viewing, everyone who's hanging out with us, you're one of us. You're chilling at the table.
Yeah.
You know, probably having a couple brewskis, chilling. Except you people under 21.
Yeah.
Shout out to the younger wrestling crew.
You got a lot of people from Belen.
I've had a very diverse group of
Yeah.
followers, people that I wouldn't think, from elementary to over 50.
Yeah.
So this podcast, luckily, God's blessed me with just shout out to YouTube for just making it capable of reaching out to so many people at one time, But episode 41, we got Eric Montoya. Guys, I'm sure you already saw in the video of me and Eric wrestling, junior wrestling. It just shows how far back that some relationships can grow and last. Mm-hmm. And even if you have rivals at the time, who knows, they might be one of your best friends growing up.
Yeah,
and it's a perfect example of me and you, man.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely, man.
What's your Instagram handle, Eric?
No wrestling, no life.
No wrestling, no life? No
wrestling,
underscores? No. What is it?
I think...
I'll drop it in the description and the info, so don't even worry about it.
Cool.
Episode 41, baby! ATG! Woo!